And hello everyone, thank you for coming here to be with us at the Moscow Urban Forum. I'm Valeria Mazganova, I'm head of Real Estate Department, Business FM Broadcasting Company. I will moderate this session. Please switch off your mobile phones. And I know, I see that you are already tired, and sometimes you're tired and cannot perceive my information. Please switch off your mobile phones. Once again, we are talking the building construction plans. Building construction plans 3.0, any megacity sooner or later faces an issue that on the one hand they want to build beautiful buildings, but on the other hand cheap and fast buildings. This is not just Moscow related issue, and in case of Moscow it is very relevant due to new Moscow adjacent areas, and we have Asian technologies enabling to merge these two things together that are almost incompatible. And in Moscow, in 2015, we changed requirements to the mass-scale construction, and even before these requirements were endorsed, that the building construction plan started talking that it means death of these building construction plans. Lots of buzz was on this issue, and let's talk today on what new mass-scale construction in Moscow means, what are the principles, the precepts, and what the new rules changed in terms of Moscow development and construction industry development. And Moscow development logic means death of construction plans. And I would like to give a floor to Moscow Chief Architect Alexei Kuznetsov, and he will brief us on the standards of large-scale construction. Sergei, shall I say it? I prefer to remain seated. Hello everyone, and we prepared a presentation on the topic. What Valeria mentioned is like a trap. And so perhaps this auditorium never had an architect, and so our cities are trapped. Sometimes they don't want to give thought to how to make the city planning, and they just want to populate vast areas as soon as possible. And once we investigated this issue, there was an urban forum dedicated to this issue back in 2012. It was called a panel What to Do with the Territories. That back then they're subject to mass-scale construction, square kilometers of identical buildings that later on become like all of them are identical. It's not recognizable, but in terms of there was a repetition, and people they're losing the sense, the notion of their motherland, of their address, and this stops to be an architecture. It becomes something social, and the citizens of the city are not the citizens anymore. And most of the areas here, apart from the central area, Moscow, it applies to them. And 90% of Muscovites, they live in these identical districts, and we cannot underestimate the impact of such a construction style to the social development. It's a colossal issue. A couple of words on what did we do, and under support and initiative of the mayor, city mayor, it was one of the prominent programs. and been implemented in Moscow rather successfully. And first of all, international experience. Urban Forum experts are coming here, and we study this experience beyond this Urban Forum. And what we can see is that being trapped, the thing of being trapped, many of the cities been in these shoes, and the desire to build a lot of buildings fast and in a simple and fast way. But many of the cities that got out of this trap, and Moscow remained there for longer. And many of the European cities are there, and they have experience of having such areas in the past, and they retrofit, they do conversion of these areas later on. These are the examples of European EU small-scale construction. So they do a conversion of these buildings, making them looking better, and sometimes the environment is taken care of, sometimes to a less extent. The quality of cover is nice, but for us it was important to create spaces. Apart from the building design, the space design is also important, and to make people feel like they're living in something recognizable. I apologize for technical problems with my clicker. And Moscow example. I should say that in Moscow the situation was not that gruesome. In the beginning of industrial construction era, we had interesting examples during constructivism epoch, and so when people started thinking how to provide residential areas for the people, so the external appearance also is related to functionality. We have growing demands towards functionality, and sometimes these apartments did not have any kitchens. So, and we understand that we can recognize by the appearance what kind of problems the inhabitants might face, and but still we had kind of masterpieces. And then Khrushchev time came into being, and he was trying to eradicate all the extra details, and and in the 60s, even Venice borrowed this project from us, and we are trying to convert this industrial construction in our Russian way. And our building construction plans, it's we cannot tell what kind of district is this. And the standards that we developed, they apply not only to construction building plans, and so construction building plans are difficult to change, to adjust, versus to cast in place construction. These are the sample districts, and you can see the problems on the slides. Apart from being so gruesome and the same looking buildings, so the gigantic high-rise buildings and the ugly streets, lack of the yards. And there is a space that we can call a yard, but it does not meet the function. There is no privacy, there is no comfort, there is no safety, there is no communication with your neighbors. Nothing is there. So our standards are meant to combat all these challenges. And 10 major building construction plans, and they're dealing with these standards and they apply it. We establish standards in a partnership with these building construction plans, and we wanted to come up with the rules that are easy to follow, and we didn't want to have the initiative to die due to technical constraints. We want to thank all the architects and the colleagues involved in this work, in the standards preparation. As a result, and we can see brand new things, brand new buildings coming up into been, and these are the new areas, new neighborhoods. What are the major requirements that we raised? And first of all, just planning. And we need to form the public and private spaces, and through the location layout from the different number of stores, and the first ground floor needs to be dedicated to public facilities, and so the ground floor should not have any barriers, and it shall be transparent, so to make easier to get into the building. This is not the project that fully meets our standards. We are just starting out. This is where we tried to adjust, to do our best, and to create different facades, to create something on the ground floors. But the mayor said this is not an ideal where we're striving to, but this is a commission to start a serious work on implementing these new standards into practice. And these are the photographs. You see, they look differently. This is not a panel construction. These are different sorts of buildings. But our norms are never meant to panel construction. And this is the industrial construction. This is the most striking example out of the entire program. And these slides show that you cannot say that these are the buildings that are built based on standard approaches. And the same principle that was used previously for residential areas. It functions differently, it looks differently, and I believe it's even, please agree, it looks nice, much nicer versus to what we had before. This is big company project. We have Sergei Gardiev with us. He will tell us more. Warsaw Highway, and you can see the design quality and amenities. Everything is there, maybe small but important elements like the ground floor, and this is another project. And all these little details and enable us, based on the same principles, like fast construction, but still to create something interesting. This is a compromise we are always talking about. I will just go through quickly and to persuade you that now it looks different. And many of the buildings are already completed, commenced into operation. And last forum, this was perceived as plans. Now these buildings are already there. I skipped one of the slides. And this is like a finalizing slide, the closing slide. We need to remember about prospects. We are not standing still. We are not satisfied with what we have. We have other regional standards and norms for urban planning, not just residential planning, all kinds of construction. This is a standard. This is like something that you can see from space. It looks nice from above, from space, but once you are on the ground, it doesn't look good. But now it is different. We are doing it across all our areas, and we are overcoming imperfection of our regulatory framework, but very soon it will become the key standard to be applicable not only in Moscow but beyond. Thank you very much. One question, and let's set a next Urban Forum discussion topic. What are the steps to be taken with regards to building construction plans? And we are discussing with the colleagues. There are proposals. They are not brand new proposals, but still we are working on a more flexible layout of the apartments, and we are trying to play with facades. We don't want the new, even good standard to become something that is so popular and replicable, and we want to keep it unique. And let us discuss new norms and standards as a part of the next Urban Forum. And currently our specialists are working on them, and we are overcoming the existing standards rather than following it. And we want the new standards to become a new norm. Thank you, Sergey. Thank you very much. Indeed, I would like to give a floor to Alexei Agapashev, Post Company.
Alexei, please be careful. We are afraid for our feet now here. Good afternoon. I would like to thank Sergey and Moscom Architectura for the unique design that he created, and very, very slowly there were changes from the building construction plans that used to be there in Moscow to modern houses. And Sergey somehow introduced this. He introduced this with his team. We first disliked it a little bit. It was a bit difficult to do this within the initial concept, but now we can see that there is huge benefit from this. And as Sergey Gordiev, who is present here, will confirm, people were able to transfer their building construction plans and modernize them. So I have a suggestion to continue this project, to roll it out away from Moscow to other cities, and I believe that this model can be copied on a smaller scale. This is the developer's economy, and of course all the public places should be comfortable for walking for people. And then we need to move on to individual homes, so that everyone could say, this is my home, this is my quarter. And this dissemination of the new approaches will be fruitful. Investors and financial and industrial groups are coming here, and they are starting to build excellent quarters, excellent communities. And I would like to expand this topic from the block construction to the construction of a city. And Sergey has shown how the city is changing, how people were able to go outside. Moscow has become really beautiful, and those small, ugly buildings that used to be standing in the way are now being eliminated, taken down. And now there's the question, who is standing behind the creation of the image of a city, whether London or Moscow or any other city? Is it the Ministry of Construction? What agency is that? I suggest that this is the Ministry of Construction that should be responsible for that. And later on, Moscom Architecture and teams of people. So we need to move on from the facade to further steps, to planning the territory. And I believe that a city is a kind of commodity that people either buy or not. They decide whether they want to live there or not. Of course, they buy this in London. Everyone is aware of London's example. So I suggest that this might become your responsibility. What if you try to continue this initiative? Someone should be held responsible for a comfortable environment in the city. And I suggest that we ask Sergey to do this. Well, it's the mayor who is responsible for this. Let's not doubt that. We are all part of his team. Thank you. And now I would like to give the floor to Constantine Kuznetsov, the Managing Director of LSR. Your opinion about the building construction plans. Well, I can talk about this for hours. You only have 5 minutes. But I'll speak briefly. I really like the idea of calling it Building Construction Plan 3.0 because they said that by the year 2000 there should be no building construction plants, but only monolith houses. But we believe that some building construction plants should survive, should live, and some plants that are not able to modernize their technical lines cannot survive, because this is about huge expenses. Only those plants survive today who work according to the so-called flexible technologies. And I'm talking about those who have low costs and quick production. We produce on flexible technical lines. We don't have any serious construction. We have a system with certain technical requirements that are in line with the demands of architects and urban developers. And we respond very quickly to architects' requests. We don't build panels that are expensive in construction. We have special designs that are in demand by architects, and then we start different facade systems, such as the so-called wet facade and systems of ventilated facades. Now we have this system together with some Moscow customers on Dmitrovsky motorway, and these houses are not like panel houses at all. But they are comparable in terms of the rate of construction, the low costs, and of course they will decorate the city. But we think that it's not all about architecture. Architecture is like packaging, which is pleasant to see and which does not harm the environment. But we are looking at the internal engineering systems as well, because there are some new requirements from the customers, from building dwellers. They are raising their bars up. And we are thinking not just about the baskets for the vans, but also for improving the support systems inside. But do I understand you correctly that the new rules will not stop you from walking because you are flexible? They will not only not stop us from walking, they will actually inspire us. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to ask Sergei Gordeev, president of the PIC company. Do I understand you correctly that, unlike your colleagues who have their own plants, you bought a plant? You started a partnership with an already existing building construction plant. The PIC company has long had its own plants. It had 4 building construction plants. So even before this company went private, it had been building prefab houses for 40 years. I just want to ask you one question. I'll start from the beginning. There were many discussions saying that the new trends of a Moscow development is the death of building construction plants. We need to understand that building construction plants are a legacy of the Soviet past. Nowhere in Europe or Asia there are no such building construction plants. Why? Because those big plants producing houses were set up in order to fulfill a certain historical task. They needed to build houses quickly with no requirements as to the diversity of those houses. In Europe, there were no large-scale tasks, but there was the diversity requirement. And that was a kind of the fight of Moscow architecture for the modernization of building construction plants. It's the fight against the Soviet-era legacy. And we tried to take up that challenge and build a plant that would do very diverse things. But the professionals who sit here understand that as soon as you are trying to do different things with building construction plans, you lose on costs. So that is, your prices go up. So that is a dilemma. And that's the question whether a building construction plant might survive in such a situation. We are doing our best to make sure that our plants have flexible systems with flexible products, which means a different number of floors, different facades. But facades is not a big problem, I think. The problem is different heights, different number of floors in different districts, because when you design a series, that series already has in it those urban building solutions that you can use. So if we talk about this historical dilemma, this is the struggle between uniformity and diversity. Those who will create new building construction plants that with the same cost, with the same volumes and rate of construction will be able to create different and diverse projects, will actually be successful. Maybe the big company will be able to create such plants. Well, we have already done this, we are doing this, but now we are facing the challenge of bringing down the costs. That's also a strategic task. And some work has already started regarding the reduction of repetitions and avoiding stereotypes, and soon there will be building construction plans 4.0. But I would actually suggest that we get used to this new technology without introducing something new, because in our company there is this so-called expression, this is professional jargon, which is called the warm micro-district. That is when many districts are built according to the same plan, and people, when they come into that district, understand how to find their home. And sometimes, however, the designs are so complicated that you have trouble finding your own home. And this is yesterday, this is in the past. So my request to Moscow architecture, let's actually start enjoying the success that we have already achieved. It seems that there are a lot of quarter construction projects, but compared to the Soviet times, there are few such projects. If we talk about nice places, yards without cars, there are few such projects, so let's work on that. So what's your opinion? Do we go forward or do we enjoy the present? What's your opinion? I'm asking you, do we move forward or do we enjoy the present? That's both. I think it's a bit difficult, even though we can imagine that. I'm against stopping, against stalling. Moscow is in a superb position compared to many old cities. Why is America rectangular? That's because rectangular plans are the best. That's the roads, the landscapes, the rivers, particularly the small rivers, and we are working on making small rivers more beautiful in our quarters. We cannot stop on what we have. We need to move forward. We cannot rest on our laurels. Sergei has shown Burov's building, which is unique. And that was a panel building, a prefab building, And after that, we had some Khrushchev stereotype 5-story buildings. And that's what was created instead of that excellent plan. And our efforts were vain. So I hope that our efforts do not become this sad experience. That's a great case for the next conference. Maybe we are running forward too quickly. Maybe we need to stop for a while. Actually, they don't want to rush in Europe either. Colleagues, let me remind you one thing. Whenever we take an important decision, we discuss it within a broad group of experts, including architects and many of our colleagues who are here in this room. We always make a public discussion, and I understand very clearly that we cannot rush too much. We cannot move very far away from everyone. We don't want that. So I believe that, of course, there is a grain of truth here. And, of course, the project should move forward. As for the velocity, the speed of this movement, we need to choose it very carefully because it cannot rush too quickly. Thank you. Sergei, there's a special topic, the involvement of architects in this building construction plan projects. There was very little involvement from architects, I think. We only had the partners from Bureau Moscow. So, girls, can you tell us what does an architect do? How is an architect involved in building construction plans? Well, when we talk about building construction plans, we talk about mass buildings, mass construction. And this is a very specific niche for architects, not only in Moscow. I believe that it is specific in 4 aspects. Point 1, for mass construction, the architect's main goal is to put together different digits with zero tolerance into some comprehensive, acceptable system, because we all have everything in square systems. There is a certain number of square meters, and that's always the case. We have a district, we have a community, we have a building, and then we populate this building with flats. And what Sergei said, we currently have a building as a community. We have a very rigid system of sellable flats, which we pack into buildings, districts, and forms. So it's the design which goes the other way around. Secondly, we are living in a paradigm of digital design. Of course, this initial Soviet system of equality transferred into a system which says typical means cheap. As a result, we do not build diverse buildings. We develop systems. And together with the PIC company, we have been working on creating a flexible system where any designer could create a building that could be put on any platform into any area, because like this we have very flexible urban construction plans. Furthermore, the best examples of housing is the social housing, which was built in the 1990s. There are excellent European examples. Of course, Soviet-era flats have become a little bit better, but their quality is still limited. It's a disaster, actually. We repeat the same things in a little bit improved way, but life has changed. We need to move on. That's the cry from the heart of the architects who say, people, let's look around. Everyone abroad lives differently, and we keep selling the same things, the same products, which are made a little bit prettier, but they are the same flats. Point 4. We have some commoditized products that we sell without any copyright. It's not that bad, but this is a different kind of product. All kinds of professionals are involved there, and as a result, we have a different thing, a product of a collective effort.
Since we've been doing it for a long time, there are 2 points from my perspective. Point 1, in the beginning of the process, all our efforts were focused on the panel does not look like the panel. What would be the mask covering the building? But now it has changed. The role of the architect is not just the author of the building, but author of the environment. And town planning architect is important. We need to consider the distances between the buildings. The profile of the street becomes important to us. Anything that makes the environment to be comfortable. In fact, what is important here is that we have way too much of the variety, and the architects, they're just overly trying, and the buildings are way different, and now we are searching for the harmony. All the architects need face control, certain face control, so we need to understand that we need an internal aesthetic code to be in place. And I can foresee that many of the next forums will be on this overlay topic, overlay done topic. Just during Soviet time, we had fight for every ruble from the state budget, and that's why we had 5-story buildings. They met their social task. And now to talk about the first course, this is a mistake. We need to pay more to the design bureaus. We need to pay more to the industry, pay more to the construction workers, and we shall not zero costs. Otherwise, we will find ourselves back in the Soviet Union. We have plenty of money. Your point is understood. Konstantin Zakharov, please wave your hand. We still have a little bit of time. Tell us on the international practices, what is the mass-scale construction abroad? Tell us. Please be brief if you can. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and I did my homework. I was preparing hard, and I want to tell you on the international experience, and they are progressing quite well in this area. And I believe that distinguished colleagues that are still not willing to make swarms kind of buildings, they will try to borrow and acquire the technologies that are already implemented abroad. Again, there is a technical issue with the clicker. Let me begin with the video clip. 2 more new technologies that might help us to reach our goals, and prefabrication technology and 3D printing technology. And can you start the video clip, please? So this is an example. This is the hotel construction project in China that was built within 15 days. You can see the timer on the left, the hours are counted, and this prefabrication approach was applied, and the ready-made blocks were brought from the plant, and it was just an assembly process on site. And within 15 days from scratch, this hotel was built, all the testing was done, and it was commenced into operation. And once we're talking about trying to innovate and find a balance between cost and comfort, perhaps we need to borrow this prefabrication technique experience. So assembly technique, which will allow us not just to bring variety to facades, but also to change, to impact the cost and the speed of construction and reach the goals in much more efficient manner and within a short period of time. And so far in Russia, we don't have any project like this. Another example, another video clip, please. This is the example that 3D printing is used in construction. Again, we cannot. There was an office building in Dubai built, and also the panels were made at the factory. Let us still try to launch the video clip. And next. And you can see that in Dubai, 3D printing technique. This is how 3D printer works. The parts, the components are manufactured through 3D printing. So concrete comes, then reinforced parts, then it is brought to the site, and by trucks and assembly of the prefabricated units is being done at the on site, and the top management of Dubai is planning to switch most of the construction projects to use. Most of the construction projects will be run through 3D printing, which reduces time, reduces cost, and enables to run interesting projects at the already developed areas. And I believe next Urban Forum we will have Russian examples. I heard that in Siberia they are starting out, and I would really love to hear about Russian cases like that. Constantine, once we say the timing and savings, give us a figure. Unfortunately, it's just we don't have any statistics on that. Sergey, probably your question was answered. What kind of building construction plans we will create, and perhaps we will discuss it during the next Urban Forum. We want to thank everyone here. Please switch on your mobile phones, and we really rely that today, in a very brief, in a very tense manner, this is the usual manner for the Urban Forum. You have a lot of things to digest. Have a nice and fruitful day and evening. Bye-bye.